when Johnny's out there being Johnny and eluding the rush, and he on the completion, it ended up being a completion to Pope. What is going through your mind at that point? And then when he throws it up for grabs like that as well, in terms of what's going
when
through your
he's
mind?
running around like that, I'm used to that now. And last year I went there early.
Right.
When he's running around, we're used to that. When he threw it up in the middle of the field, I had a little problem with that. And to be honest with you, that's really the only time this year that's happened. He came to the sideline, and we got a timeout right after that. An injury timeout during that play. So he comes over, and everybody's all excited. If you watch the video, what people don't know is Pope got pushed out of bounds, completely out of bounds off the video, off the screen, and he comes flying back onto the field, which is a great effort by Pope, and just leaps in the middle of the deal and catches the ball. And I said, everybody gets around, and I said, hey, look, don't do that. And he said, it would have been as good as a punt. Which, I'll be honest with you, which means that whether he was telling the truth or not, at that point, at least he had a response and he was thinking, because it was late down, and we're crossing the red zone, and I said, well, even still, the problem is, our last chance to tackle a guy, you're on the ground underneath there. But let's move on. We didn't have an opportunity to talk about it. That was the conversation during the game. And we talked about it a little bit yesterday, but, there's some things that are good and bad and give and take, with him that are different than a lot of other guys. And, as far as being careless or reckless with the ball, I think that was the one example of that on Saturday. And based on how he played the whole game, I don't think that was reckless. I go back and look at the video, the fade from the 2 or 3 yard line. We got to be better. That ball's thrown in the corner of the end zone a bunch. The communication between whether we're going to back shoulder or put it in the corner has got to be better. The ball on the seam, you know what? That's a playmaking play. That ball is tipped. There's probably a little early contact there, and that's a competitive play. That's going to happen. We got 10 other guys that can. He took a shot at him, didn't get him on the ground. Get him on the ground, who knows what happens? But that play there, that wasn't a ball that was thrown into a whole bunch of coverage. It's a tip ball and a guy that was beaten. It's a competitive play. So as far as being reckless with the ball, that was definitely reckless, throwing it down the middle of the field at that point. But there weren't a whole bunch of those in that game.
Now that you finally had your entire defense intact for a game, where do you see yourself just really needing to improve on that side of the ball?
Well, I think we settled down into repping and practicing the guys who are going to play. And, we played a lot of guys, repped a lot of guys the first 2 weeks, 3 weeks that weren't experienced. We had to catch up the experience with some guys that hadn't played. You look at where we were, to replace really 4 of the front 7 coming into the year, and then to have really the 3 of the other 7 either miss a game, at least 1 game. Whether it was Julian was out a game, was injured, Kirby was out, and Jinx was out too. We're actually repping a whole bunch of guys from a depth standpoint, but maybe not starters. We had to catch them up. I think what you miss is the communication, and being able to line up, be able to make adjustments. Because as I've said before, it's one thing for coaches to make adjustments and to explain them, but it takes some sort of experience and wherewithal to utilize those adjustments to the game. So I think now, we've got enough pieces of guys that have played But now we can settle down and say, all right, here's the true order of how the refs are gonna go. Now that we got Jinx back, now that we know what we have in our young linebackers and our defensive line, what the rotation's going to be now, instead of you starting and having to do this, or who's the swing guy inside there. So the continuity of me, particularly with young guys, you know, just learning this position instead of the pressure that we put on them, particularly those linebackers and those D linemen, to learn a couple different positions because we had to get through those games. I think it's going to help. So we've got to get them in the right positions, practice them for continuity's sake, and get some leadership out of the guys who haven't played in a communication fashion. And you know, the things that we saw are correctable. And I think our players understand that. And you know, that's we get back to today to really some continuity and not as much newness as last week on, as far as personnel and parts, and just establish who we are for the rest of the season, personnel-wise, for the rest of the year.
Ladies, you talk about the philosophy of Jones and Mumme and your dealings maybe with them, things that you might have picked up with them, or differences you see in your offense compared to theirs.
Well, I think, you know, you've seen June move more towards, you know, when he hired Hal, everybody tries to throw passing teams into one bucket. There's different philosophies involved in the run and shoot as it was with June, and you know, really what has been termed the air raid, Hal Mumme, you know, that sort of deal. For them to be together tells you what they think of each other as really kind of the godfathers of this whole situation. I've been fortunate enough to be around both of them, and you know, June and I consider June a friend. You know, playing all those games in the West and Conference USA, meaningful games where I think, I don't know, they won a couple of West deals with 11 and maybe 10 and I don't know, 10, 11, something like that. We won a couple, and we actually came to the Conference USA at the same time. So, you know, he's been a winner. He's one of the first guys that took a non-BCS team to a BCS bowl game. You know, he's been around the NFL game at the highest level, and then, you know, Hal has really impacted a number of coaches that I have hired, including myself. So I have a lot of respect for both men, you know, and what they've accomplished and how they've altered history and the history of really the college football. And so, you know, we're probably a little bit different. Everybody's got their own twist on things, you know, but the blend of those two guys is a little bit different. You know, I would have said, you know, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago, I wouldn't see that coming. And it's one of those deals where you pick up the paper and said, you know, he hired Hal. It's wow. So it's and you can see it. You know, I think right now they lead the country in completions per game, or in total completions. I know they've got 2 receivers that are in the top with 3 in the country in catches per game. So that doesn't surprise me. It'll be we're going to have to defend the whole field. Got a veteran quarterback who come out of high school was as good a talent as there was in the nation. You know, he's still very talented. I'm sure as he goes on, he's getting better and used to a system. You know, we're playing another week, a team that had a whole week off again. I don't know how this scheduling thing works, but everybody gets a week off before they play us. So you'll see some new stuff. Even though we're at home, I'm not complaining about that. But yeah, they're going to have some new wrinkles and some new stuff, and it'll be another challenge for our defense because it'll be different than what we saw last week. And we're going to have to defend the whole field, and you know, we're going to have to defend the field vertically as well as from sideline to sideline, because they're gonna stress us out and try to make us play in space and make open field tackles.